In this lesson, we'll conclude a review of PSAT Writing Test 2, Section 2. We're on the fourth and final passage, Cleveland Rocks for Artists. And it looks like the first question we see these brackets is the sentence order regarding the whole first paragraph. We have to place a sentence. So let's read the first paragraph. It used to be that a move to a metropolis such as New York City was an inevitable step for aspiring artists. Back when geography was everything, an artist had to get her painting, song, poem, or dance in front of as large an audience as possible. To some degree, these tales may have been true. That was much easier in a city with a teeming population. Geographical proximity helped artists meet other artists, be inspired by them, and compete with them. Stories of talented, ambitious young people getting by on pluck and luck in a big city were commonplace. These days, however, they are more fiction than fact. So question 34, we want to place sentence 3. To some degree, these tales may have been true. And you always want to look for clues when you place a sentence immediately, the sentence immediately preceding and after. Is there reference to tales? So we started at the beginning of the paragraph. It used to be a move to New York was inevitable back when geography was everything. To some degree, these tales, and where's reference to tales, right? It doesn't really fit there. And then if you look at 4, that was much easier in a city with a teeming population. This definitely links with 2 better. We really don't need this. This is out of order. We have to place it somewhere else. And we've got geographical proximity, helped artists meet others. And then we see in 6 stories. This should be an indication, right? It relates to tales. Stories of talented, ambitious young people getting by on pluck and luck in the big city were commonplace. These stories were commonplace. These days, however, they are more fiction than fact. And so this is in the past that stories of young people getting by were commonplace. To some degree, these stories or tales may have been true. And then we have the contrast. Now, these days, however, they are more fiction than fact. And so, again, you can see, look for clues, but it fits perfectly between 6 and 7. So it is after 6. The answer is D. All right, let's take a look at 35. Today, the United States economy is much less forgiving. Once an artist could make a living as a temporary office worker or a waiter, leaving plenty of time to practice your art. And so as soon as you see, this is another clue, your art, an artist doesn't agree with your art, all right? And so artist or artists are both out. Once one could make it, switches to your, it's not parallel. Once you could make a living, practice your, that's parallel. And so again, always looking for clues here. You would only put a 1 if you had another 1. All right, 36. In many of the nation's largest cities, therefore, this life is no longer possible. There are very few cheap empty lots waiting to be transformed with an attitude and a paintbrush. Real estate prices have skyrocketed in survival for all, but the luckiest few become more difficult. And so here, this is a transition question, number 36. So it's saying today the U.S. economy is less forgiving. Once an artist, and we change that to you, could make a living. But now they're saying that in many of the nation's largest cities, it's no longer possible. We definitely need some contrast, right? Once you could make a living, leaving plenty of time to practice your art. In many of nation's largest cities, however, this is no longer possible. And we have the evidence here because there are very few cheap empty lots. We definitely need contrast. And by the way, how therefore and consequently are the exact same word. Even if you didn't read this sentence, these could both have to be wrong because they're synonyms, right? You can't differentiate. And then, for instance, we only use if we have an example and then there's reference to the examples in the previous sentence. And so let's do one more and we'll stop this video. Actually, we'll do 2 more. We'll do 37 and 38. It's the end of this paragraph. In many large cities, affordable theaters, jazz cafes, and art galleries are being replaced by other places, including expensive restaurants, couture, boutiques, and exclusive nightclubs. So there are fewer and fewer opportunities for the artists just starting out. And so 37, which choice most effectively sets up the list of examples that follows in the sentence and completes the contrast introduced earlier in the sentence? And so remember, we contrasted, we put a however there. It's no longer possible because it's so expensive. In many large city, affordable theater, jazz cafes and art galleries are being replaced by other places. And then here's the list of other places: expensive restaurant, couture boutiques, exclusive. These are all very high-end venues. And so what would most effectively set that up? Not just other places. We want to be more descriptive. We want to effectively set up the examples. Upscale venues, right? High-end, not attractive, or locations where artists are likely to spend money. That really doesn't set up the examples of expensive venues. And so the answer is C, and we'll do the number 38. When business leaders in New York, for example, go so far as to declare the city a luxury brand, they are not appealing to potential customers who struggle to survive as artists. And so 38 is an idiomatic question. Go so far as. And this is the correct phrase. Again, you have to kind of test these out. Go so far as. You wouldn't say go too far or farther. Go so far as. That is the idiomatic phrase. So the answer here is no change.